Hello and welcome. Today, we are diving into a question that, let's be honest, many of us think about, especially as we or our loved ones get older. What gives out first? Our thinking or our ability to handle daily life? Let's find out.
You know, it's that classic chicken or the egg puzzle, right? When we see someone aging, what's the first real sign of a struggle? Is it when they start forgetting things and that leads to them having trouble with chores? Or does struggling with physical tasks somehow make their thinking get worse? Well, it's a huge question. And today, science has a surprisingly clear answer.
So here's our game plan. We'll start by making sure we're all on the same page with the terms. Then we'll peek inside the actual study that tackled this. We're going to find out which domino falls first, see which daily tasks get hit the hardest, and then, this is the best part, we'll uncover a really hopeful twist in the data. And of course, we'll wrap it all up with why any of this really matters to you.
All right, first things first. Let's get a handle on the two main ideas we're talking about here.
Okay, so on one side, you have what scientists call cognitive function. This is just a fancy term for all of our thinking skills. You know, memory, our ability to focus, solve problems, and plan things out. And on the other side, you've got activities of daily living, or ADLs. That's just all the basic stuff we do every day to take care of ourselves and live on our own.
So how in the world can we figure out which one causes the other to change? Well, for that, we have to look at the research.
And our guide for this whole explainer is a really neat study from 2025 that was published in Frontiers in Aging Neuroscience. What they did was they tracked 169 people over a period of time. They measured both their thinking skills and their ability to do daily tasks at two different points, which gave them this incredible window into how these two things change together.
Now here's where the researchers got really smart. They didn't just lump all daily activities into one big pile. Nope, they made a crucial distinction. On one side, you have basic activities, the real essentials, like bathing and getting dressed. But on the other, you have what are called instrumental activities. These are more complex things that require planning, like managing your finances or going grocery shopping. And believe me, this difference is where the story gets really, really interesting.
And to finally answer our chicken or the egg question, they use this clever statistical tool. It's called a cross-lagged analysis. Now I know, the name sounds super technical, but don't worry about it. All it really does is let researchers look at two things over time and figure out, hey, does thing A at the start predict thing B later on? Or is it the other way around? It's basically the perfect tool for figuring out which domino is the first to fall. So, the moment of truth. After all that setup, what did the study actually find? Which one is the chicken and which is the egg?
The answer was completely clear. There was no ambiguity. The study found that a decline in our thinking skills is the first domino. It comes before, and it actually predicts, a later struggle with our daily activities. And this wasn't just a small effect. The data was loud and clear. They found a really strong statistical connection. Now you see this number on screen, beta equals negative 0.302. You don't need a PhD in statistics to get this. Just focus on that little negative sign. It tells you everything. It means as one thing goes down, our thinking skills, the other thing goes up, our need for help with daily tasks. Plain and simple, the mind leads and the body tends to follow.
The researchers themselves really nailed it in their conclusion. As you can see from this quote, they said that cognitive decline isn't a result of struggling with daily life, it's a contributor to it. So, the big takeaway here is that the changes often start in the brain.
But hey, remember how the researchers split daily activities into those two different types? Well, that's where this story gets even more specific.
So check out this chart. It tells us something really important. See the two bars? One is for the simple, basic tasks, and the other is for the more complex ones. Now you can see that the bar for complex tasks is taller. That number, negative 0.318, tells us that the link is stronger here. What does that actually mean? It means early changes in our thinking have a much bigger, much more immediate impact on our ability to do things like manage a budget or remember to take medications.
So let's just sum this part up. Those complex instrumental activities are kind of like the canary in the coal mine. When someone starts having trouble with tasks that need a lot of planning and memory, that can be one of the very first signs that cognitive changes are starting to affect their independence. The simpler, more routine tasks, well, those tend to hang on for a lot longer.
Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds like a bit of a downer, right? Like a one-way street of decline. But the data actually revealed something totally unexpected, something really, truly hopeful.
So the researchers, they dug a little deeper. They asked themselves, okay, does this mind over matter thing apply to everyone in our study, or does it maybe change based on how severe their cognitive impairment is?
And interestingly, the answer was no, it doesn't hold true for everyone. They found the connection was actually strongest for people who were in the moderate stage of cognitive impairment. Now this is huge. Why? Because it suggests there might be a critical window, a specific period of time where support and interventions could be the most effective at helping someone maintain their independence.
But this is where things get really fascinating. For the group with the most severe impairment, the researchers decided to flip the whole question on its head. They asked, could needing help with basic tasks actually predict better thinking skills later on? And look at this table. The answer was a shocking yes. That positive number, plus 0.398, is the complete opposite of what they found for everyone else. It suggests a whole different dynamic is at play.
So what on earth could that mean? Well, the study offers this really beautiful and hopeful interpretation. For people with severe cognitive issues, needing more help with things like getting dressed or eating, well, that also means they're getting more hands-on care, more social interaction, more routine. And that support itself might actually help to stabilize or maybe even slightly improve their cognitive function. It's an incredible idea.
Okay, so we've journeyed through all this data. Let's bring it all home. What are the big takeaways? Why does understanding all this matter in the real world for you and me?
It really boils down to 3 really important points. First, being proactive is everything. Since we now know that changes in thinking come first, we shouldn't wait for someone to struggle with daily tasks before we step in to help or make changes. Second, we need to focus on those complex tasks. If you notice a loved one is suddenly having a hard time managing their money or planning a trip to the store, that could be a really important early flag. And finally, and maybe most importantly, support matters. This research shows that care isn't just about managing decline, it can actually be therapeutic and make a huge difference.
And that leaves us with this final, really critical question. The science is basically giving us an early warning sign. It's telling us that mind often comes before matter. So the challenge for all of us is, how can we use that knowledge to act sooner? How can we build habits and communities that support our cognitive health long before our independence is ever even on the line? That's a question worth thinking about. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.